So welcome to Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. I'm your host, Mark Riccadonna, and with me, as always,
Richie Byrne.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm all right. All right. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I actually prepared today, and by prepare, I mean I have a drink.
I'm on water. I'm on the wagon. It's only been a couple of days. I'm trying.
Oh.
I got to take a break. It's too much lately.
Yeah.
I mean, but and the way my career is going, this show may end up being called "And Storytelling."
No drinks, no jokes.
Just storytelling.
Storytelling. I got this drink, and it took me a while to prepare this. This is a legit prep. It's not just I dump vodka in a glass. So I worked with Kevin Flynn last weekend, and we went to this really awesome corporate gig, and the guy made this drink that was so good. It was unbelievable. So I asked him, I said, "What is this? I want to make this at home." And he goes, "It's so easy. You just get a bottle of tequila, slice jalapenos in quarters, dump it in the bottle of tequila, let it sit for a few days. Then you take a tablespoon of vanilla extract, dump it in the tequila, mix it with soda water."
Wow.
It's spicy, it's sweet, it's delicious, and it's tequila. So it has everything you want.
Wow. See, I can't. I had a bad experience with tequila when I was 17, and I've never been able to really. Even when I was bartending, if I poured a shot of tequila, I had to stand away. I couldn't even smell it. It would make me nauseous. But
who's the comic who has that bit? Because everybody has a liquor you can't drink. One night I drank tequila till I threw up my shoes, so now I can't even smell tequila. Then 5 years later, it was whiskey. I drank that, and he goes, "I'm basically going to work my way down the shelf, and that's when I know I'm done drinking."
That's funny.
Well, we got a great guest.
Yes.
I'm so excited for our guest, and we're going to ask what he's drinking. I saw him take a sip. This guy, I'm not even going to get into his title because the guy's wore a lot of hats, but I think we're going to be most interested in his and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, 82 to 2007.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. He was
on and off 1982 to 86. Did just Saturday Night Live, and my title, I was only a cameraman, but I did a lot of the different events that they had.
He did a little more than cameraman. You were also on camera.
Yeah, I was on camera that a couple of times.
My favorite sketch of all time. I didn't know that I would eventually meet the funniest part of the sketch, but Mike Bennett, cameraman from Saturday Night Live. He's worked on soaps. He worked on sports shows. We're just diving in because we just got to really get to dive in right before you got here, Rich.
What sketch? I got to know the sketch.
You remember the Continental with Christopher Walken?
Oh, yeah.
And Christopher Walken.
I was the hand.
And he also had to wear high heels.
Oh, the wardrobe department went full drag on me. I had the wig. I think I sent you the picture of me walking on stage. The 12 pumps, stockings, dress, gloves, the whole bit. I rocked that outfit. Let me tell you, I rocked it.
I don't know three numbers that night.
If you can look that up on YouTube, the making of the Continental, they show you actually what we have as a picture-in-picture, and it shows you the whole sketch from my point of view and then the audience's point of view. It's interesting.
Wow. Well, we'll have Tony put it up later in post. But yeah, I got to see it now. I can't even wait. So keep talking.
That was my favorite. I was a little kid at the time when I watched it live, and I was
Thanks a lot.
I wasn't. If that makes you feel better, Mike.
Yeah.
I was
It
a
doesn't.
baby. I was a baby comic. I just look grizzled now. Young people don't accept me because they think I'm a undercover boomer going into the millennial turf. And older people can't believe I'm not as old as them. I don't have a home when it comes to my age, but I remember watching it and just going, how is this cameraman not losing his shit laughing?
It in rehearsal, it was easier to lose it. During the air, it was a lot going on. A lot I had to, I hate getting into it, but a lot I had to worry about shooting off the set. Being so close to him physically with the camera, and you can't zoom because once you zoom, you're no longer, a person. A person's eye doesn't zoom, so everything basically has to be on a fixed element. So you're constantly worrying about shooting off and your composition, and then being in the right spot at the right time. When you watch the sketch, you'll see a couple of times where Walken didn't remember he was supposed to run around, so I'm kind of running in place waiting for him to come around in front of me. So, and working with him, in our job, you work with all of the kinds of people. And let me tell you, he was the character that you see.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
He'd stand on the stage. I was low key. I mean, I didn't know who we were working with that day. It happened when I came into work. Oh, the Stones are on. It was another day at work. Yeah. But he would stand on the stage and he'd want to rehearse that sketch, and he'd be going, "Michael, where's my Michael? We need to rehearse this." And he's up on the stage, and I'm like, "Oh no." But he was a gentleman, real nice guy. So it was a lot of fun doing that sketch.
This might pop something in my head, but I pictured the way you filmed it. You were a character in the sketch, not just a prop.
Yes, and
you moved.
I'm
in
sorry.
A way. You moved in a way that it was like it felt like a woman and felt the stress.
I kind of had to think that way. I mean, he had to kind of think that way, but then again, you had to make it work. And you'll see if when you watch it, it's a little unnatural when you watch the two shot, like what the audience saw. But apparently it worked.
It
worked out.
My favorite sketch of all time.
It was a lot of fun. And then more cowbell. He was there for more cowbell, obviously.
Yeah. How funny was that for you? Like
that was one where you could laugh. I mean, everybody was laughing. And to this
including
day,
the cast,
including Fallon. Yeah.
It was, things like that are what make it hysterical, fun to do. It was one of the funniest, I think. It was a fun one.
There we go. There you are in drag, looking good.
Oh, yeah.
It's so. I guess let's start from the beginning. What got you into wanting to work a camera? Like, what was it? Family business?
Yeah, it was between my father, my brother, and myself. I guess we have over 100 years at NBC. My father was a cameraman back in the 50s.
Wow.
And then he went into, I have a picture.
What are some of his shows that he worked?
What were his shows? Oh, yeah. He did the Mitch Miller show. He did the Perry Como show.
Wow.
He did the Peter Pan when that was first done. Yeah, that's me with Sid. That's the original SNL crew. That's Al Camoin. He did the crane camera. Hino Rip is in the middle next to Sid Caesar. I'm the one down, the young kid at the bottom. Wow, that was a long time ago.
What year would this have been? This would have been early 80s?
1982.
82. When that's the year you started?
Yes.
So that was the year after Eddie Murphy really took off then, right? He was 182.
Yep.
So yeah, this would have
he was just finishing up.
This would have been Tim Kazurinsky and Gary Kroger and those guys.
Exactly. Right? Yep. Yeah. Ellen forget her name.
Ellen Cleghorn.
Yep. Ellen.
Yeah, I know Ellen. Yeah. Yeah,
And,
yeah. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus was there then.
yes, that's right.
Yeah, and Brad and her husband, right? Brad Hall was there too.
Yeah, Brad.
I
Was
can't
there,
believe I
yeah.
remember that. But that was that was my era. Did you know a writer named Andrew Smith? He was
Not
one of the
quite
writers.
sure.
Okay, he's a friend of mine.
Not quite sure. When I first started, even in my whole career, I was kind of low key. I stayed away. I stayed back, and was taught in the beginning, keep my eyes and ears open and my mouth shut. So
yeah, I mean that's very important in that bit because the funny thing people don't realize, you talk bad about somebody at your job, it's one thing. If you talk bad about somebody on a set, it could be heard all over the studio because you never know what's hot.
Microphones are the killer of a lot of careers.
Yes,
Open mics, yes, they have been. But you were asking how I got started. Like I said, my dad was a cameraman, and he went into management. Being a young kid, I was 19, left the University of Miami, came home, not knowing what I wanted to do. And a friend of his was building, he had a company that was building the camera towers for the golf, so he got me a job building the scaffold towers for the golf tournaments. So at 19 years old, I was traveling the country for 8 months out of the year, one tournament to the other, putting the towers up. And when the towers went up, we had like a week to a week and a half of just monitoring. Our job was done. So until the tournament started, I was told, get up on those cameras and play with them and learn them. So at 19 years old, I had an opportunity, and I guess it was up to me whether I wanted to learn it or not, to get on the cameras and play with them. And following golf balls at 19 was a good training aspect.
Yeah.
And then I was telling Mark that NBC started hiring what they call vacation reliefs. They would hire somebody temporarily to fill in for staff when they went on vacation. So did that for 2 seasons, 2 vacation reliefs for like 6 months. And then I got offered a permanent job, but there was a stipulation. Nobody liked doing soap operas back then. Nobody. Because NBC was doing all the sports. They had the big shows, the Saturday Night Lives. So going to Brooklyn, which was out of this, you guys know, you were shipped elsewhere. You were forgotten about. So I was offered a permanent job if I took the job in Brooklyn. So I did. And I got to tell you, if you want to learn camera, if anybody's interested in learning camera the right way, do a soap camera, because you get to do zooms, dollies, focus, all this in one move.
Yeah.
Where sports cameras don't do it. It's really the only venue anymore where you can get to incorporate all those different camera techniques or uses at one time. And it was great training. And the technical director came out on the soap opera one day and asked me if they were losing their handheld cameraman. He was retiring, Nick Bruno. No, excuse me. It was Vinny DiPietro. I'm sorry. Was the handheld cameraman back then. And Vinny trained me on his handheld, and
wow,
that's where my career started.
Yeah, he was like well known, right? Because I've heard his name.
Vinny DiPietro was. Yeah, he was one of the original camera. All those guys that like Al Camoin, they were the start of NBC. They started in the late 40s,
right?
And basically it was just starting as a company. So
that's why I loved working at NBC, just because you just sit there and realize the history of. I was a big TV buff growing up, and also you sit there, you go, my God, when you just everything that went on, and Carson was here, and Jack Parr quit right there, and whatever, and just amazing, man.
Did you ever get to see the closet or the back closet?
Who showed me the closet? Fallon. Yeah, where
very cool.
What's the closet?
Go ahead, tell them.
It's back in the early 60s, I guess. There was this young puppeteer who was going to be on the Tonight Show, and he was bored, and there was a pipe in his dressing room, and he started doodling, and it was like early Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy, and because it was Jim Henson.
Whoa!
And when they converted it into a closet, the green room, they converted a closet, but they put like a plastic in front of it, like a plastic, so the pipe is still there. And you see everything. And this probably somebody walked in and went, "What kind of asshole does this?" And then 30 years later, they're going, "Oh my God, this is gold." You know,
paint over that graffiti.
I hope I got that story right, Mike.
Yes, you did, 100%.
Because Fallon was very proud of it. He was like, "You got to see the closet. You got to see the closet." I'm like, "Wow, that was so cool, man." Yeah,
that's wild.
Jimmy Fallon was he treated my wife the first time he met her like a queen, and she'll never forget it.
He's a great guy, and I hate what was just said about him in the papers and all this, because that's bullshit.
You know what says it all, though?
Bullshit.
And we get politically incorrect. Having a crying room or going to a crying room, I think, says it all.
Yes.
If they've got to turn a dressing room into their crying room, fucking TV ain't their job. Let me tell you what, they need another position. Sorry about, you guys can edit that.
No, you're absolutely, believe me.
You can say anything.
No, I mean, come on. You're working in television. You're working in television.
Right.
Man, oh man, I could tell you stories about where women were mistreated back in the 80s and just abused.
Yeah.
And now they get crying rooms.
Yeah.
Give me a break. He's one of the sweetest fellas.
But it sounds horrible.
Oh, you don't know the Fallon story? That he apparently had in Rolling Stone this week, there was an article, unnamed sources from the show claimed that he's been very mean, and he actually, I think, did a stupid thing and apologized. I'd be like, well, dude, when your name is on the show, let me know, man. Yeah, they're kind of trying, they're trying to Ellen him now. He's the next one they're trying to go after. So
all these people are going after everybody, and it's like, what's the goal? So it's your show? Like,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and that's and Mark, you can attest to this, and Tony, you can attest to this. Yeah, on anytime there's a show with your name on it, that's a lot of pressure, man. And even just from the sense of, I'm a comedian getting up on stage, no one knows me, but it's still my moment. And if I fuck up, there's no one to blame but me. There's no one who's going to take the heat but me. And so
whose name will they remember?
Whose name are they going to remember? They're not going to remember some unknown source from Rolling Stone. They're going to, So yeah, are you going to have bad days where you're like, this show sucks, somebody better do something? Yeah, you're going to have those days. And you know what? It just pisses me off. Well, like people used to say to me, "Oh, how well did you know Jimmy Fallon?" I go, listen, there were days where that guy'd be walking down the hall and he would stop to talk to me about Paul McCartney being on the show, whatever. There were other days where he walked right past me. You know why? Not because he's an asshole, because he's got a show to do. He's the star of the Tonight Show. He's got a lot of shit on his mind, man. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, watch Larry Sanders and then realize that it's not a comedy.
Larry Sanders couldn't have been closer to the truth. That it was just amazing how great what a great show that was.
There's just so much pressure for anything in the entertainment business. We do live shows, and so that's probably the least of them. The least pressured of all that. But I couldn't even imagine going into NBC and having the entire late night resting on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And you better, and not only is there all that pressure, you better be charming and lovely on camera.
Yeah.
Or else the home viewers aren't going to like you.
No, it's a lot of pressure. Hey, Mike, who were your favorite cast members? Do you have like
group? I do.
Who?
Yeah, Will Ferrell, Adam Sandler.
Okay.
Two of the greatest guys I'd ever met.
Okay.
They
Interesting.
Always treated me well. Adam Sandler, funny story. My wife, sitting right over there. God bless her. My second wife, the best wife.
First
right there.
Number one of two.
She was a single mom for 18 years, and she didn't get to travel a whole lot, and quite an opposite of my career. She had a government job in a cubicle, and So when we started dating, I had the opportunity to, to get her around and see some things. Her first date was Rod Stewart. I was doing a Today Show. She got to see Rod Stewart. So she was, real impressed. So we were walking from the building. She came in to hang out with me one day. We were walking the building to go down to Central Park. And out of nowhere, we hear this, Mike, Mike, Mike. And Adam was taping Big Daddy, filming Big Daddy.
Wow.
And he saw me and he came running up off the set and gave me a big hug in front of my wife, which, boosted my standing with her a little bit. And then again, Jimmy Fallon was a real sweetheart. I mean, when they treat your family and make them feel special around all those other people, you earn something in my book,
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy, every time he sees Deb, hey, Deb, you rock. People like that mean it. You know what I mean? They remember, they mean it. And Will Ferrell was just a real sweet, for my working with him, was a sweetheart of a guy. He was a gentle soul. Never heard him. Will never heard him raise his voice, never seen him in a bad mood. And I worked with him for quite a few years when he almost killed Meredith Vieira on a skating rink. I guess it was after they did that Blades movie. He was supposed to pull her between his legs. Did you see that bit?
Yeah.
And he dropped her and she hit her head on the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. She's lovely. Yeah. I know Meredith.
Yeah, I mean, shit happens.
Yeah.
Live television. We've been there.
I remember being up.
They were my.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I remember being on the set, and there was a sign that said "duck your head" or something like that, and then it said Farley, and I'm sure it's still there. It was like he must have hit his head all the time on this little like body.
Jumping and full of energy. I mean, he never. What you saw in his sketches is what we saw on the floor. Well, I don't know what he was like up in the writer's room or at home, but the energy that you saw on the set with Chris, that was him. Every time you saw him, he was jumping, he was running, he was going.
Yeah. You were there for that 85 cast, which I think was just a tremendous cast, but a lot of them were already established. And I think they brought them in to kind of keep the show because the show was having trouble at that point. But the Billy Crystal year with Chris Guest, Jim Belushi, what's his name? The other one from Spinal Tap, Harry Shearer. That must have been some year because those guys are just immensely talented.
I worked for some reason, and I'm not sure if it was the conventions. Something was in 85. I know what it was. I went for 2 years in 84. I went part-time to the Cosby Show.
Okay.
Dick Ebersol was producing back then.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that was actually funny too, because they brought me to Saturday Night Live and I kind of earned my stripes with the handheld on that show. Well, the Cosby Show was starting up and was kind of told that I was going to be doing the Cosby Show and Saturday Night Live where I could fit it in.
Right.
And I said, I was like, okay with that. And then Ebersol came to me and was kind of giving me the guilt trip. He's like, we trained you to do camera here. We train, you shouldn't really be leaving us in a lurch. And I said to him, Dick, I'll talk to you in a way that you understand. He goes, and what's that? I said, money.
Yeah.
I said, there's 2 guys on the show that get all the overtime. I don't get a dime of it. I said, if I go to Saturday Night Live, it opens me up to, if I go to the Cosby Show, it opens me up to sports and the Cosby Show and SNL, and I can make overtime. I said, so if you want to match the overtime, he stuck out his hand. He says, good career. See you later. Yeah. See you later. Money didn't talk in that. He let me walk.
No, money talked. It just wasn't the answer you expected.
I guess at my age and that point in my career, it was like, we'll find somebody else. Thank you. But 2 years later, I was back on. So.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That would have been like the Lovitz years and Dennis Miller and all.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then,
I can't believe I know this. Like I haven't done any
I was
research.
going to ask you. I was going to tell you you're going to have to tell me who was on the crew because again,
Oh,
I don't remember. There was a lot of weed smoking back in those days. A lot of.
That's funny.
You sent me a thing of who's your favorite person to smoke weed with in the stairwell?
Jim Brewer. Brewer and I used to. Yeah, Jim and I used to go back to the stairwell behind 8H and partake a few times.
I love Brewer. He's a great guy.
Funny man.
I years ago, God, it's got to be 20. I was filling in on Jane Pauley had her own show for a couple of years, right?
Yep.
So I was going to fill in for our friend Joey Cola as the warm up, and I went to a show to watch Joey, and Bill Murray was her guest because apparently she was very close with those guys back when she was doing the Today Show. Because she would see them they were getting out of work as she was going into work at like 3 a.m. And so she said Belushi used to walk her home, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. And so she became very close with Murray, and Bill Murray was in, I forget what he was promoting, but he comes in and he's completely hammered. He's hammered. And he goes on this show and he says that he said there's a guy, and I don't remember who the guy was, an older man, but he said that there's a guy who is a technician on the show on Saturday Night Live. He said, I'm here in NBC. I haven't been here in years. And I had to go up to Saturday Night Live and I had to find him. And he said, do you still have that bottle in your locker? And the guy said, of course I do. And he ended up getting drunk with the guy before he went on with Jane Pauley. And you probably know he was the guy who's been there forever. So now I'm on the way. I'm leaving the show, and you can see Bill felt bad. He probably should. He answered questions from people after. He could have been nicer. And I even thought, I think he's doing this because he feels bad because he's half in the bag. I get on the elevator to leave, and there's an old guy in the elevator with me. He goes, "Were you at the Jane Pauley show?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Did he mention some guy got him drunk?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm that guy. I'm that guy." The guy was like so proud of it.
Oh, that's
I don't
funny.
know if you know who that was, but I just remember that he was like a guy who was always there and always had a bottle.
And he was on it. Was he an SNL crew member?
Yes.
I know exactly who it was.
Yeah.
I do. You go by his locker before every show, and there was the tip going
That's
on.
what Bill said. That is so funny.
Yep.
That is so
I'll
funny.
give this way. And I don't remember his last name, so it won't matter. But his first name was George, and he was a boom up guy.
It was. You're absolutely. I knew you'd remember this. Yeah.
Yep.
And Bill, that's exactly what Bill said. He was a boom up guy, George. He even said George. He didn't say his last name. But I'm on the elevator. This guy's like, I was the guy. I'm drunk. I got him drunk. It was great.
Yeah. Imagine though how jealous Jane Pauley had to be. She just got spent hours getting ready, showered, makeup, all that stuff, heading in, and then here comes the guys from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Right.
She said there were nights where you were like, wow, like they've been up for a couple of days, if you know what I mean,
Yeah. I do.
Were you were drugs really prominent in the 80s with that cast? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't want to say cast. I don't.
I know it in general in television. The 80s were.
Yeah. Yes. And it was cocaine and weed was cocaine big time in the 80s.
I have a friend who worked on Tom Snyder and Letterman, and then worked on Oz. He was the sound tech, Glenn Arbor. I don't know if you know Glenn.
I know Glenn very well.
Glenn's one of my dearest friends. Dude, I got to tell him.
Tell Glenn to give me a call or Facebook me.
I will.
I love Glenn.
He's one of the best people I've ever met in my life.
How's his health doing?
This business is.
He's doing great. He's living in Maine now. He and his wife moved to Maine. He retired. And as a matter of fact, we've been texting, but we haven't talked in a while. Now you give me I'll call him after the show.
Please do. Give him my love.
He's the best, dude.
Yes, he is. So where were we going with that?
But he used to tell me how back in the 70s and 80s, like liquid lunch was everything.
Well, that was Hurley's 1H.
Yeah. Yes, Hurley's. Yes, yeah.
Hurley's 1H. They actually had a phone line from Hurley's to the studios. So if somebody wanted Phil Himes, like a lot of the old time lighting directors,
yes,
they'd all be down at Hurley's. They'd get a phone call, come up, the news camera needs you, and these guys would run up from Hurley's. 1H was the number. Yep, that was the studio 1H.
1H, yeah. That, oh my God, that's so funny. It didn't even hit me that you would know Glenn. It just just dawned on me.
Yeah, I worked with Glenn on Conan.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah.
I did the Conan O'Brien show.
Oh, you did Conan? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I hate saying it, but I did them all. Yeah.
No, dude, this is legendary stuff.
Right behind you is just two of them. You have was it 12 Emmys?
Oh, I personally have 16, but I won 17. One of them,
wow.
We were on strike when we were nominated and won, and you actually have to pay for the Emmys. But usually the company paid for them. You know, they would send us out there because it's all publicity for them. But it's $250 for when you win an Emmy to get the statue. And we were on strike, and I won one of them. We don't know, and wasn't going out there to pay $250 to get the statue. So I have a few of them.
I can't believe, first of all, you have to pay. I never knew that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the great. Anybody who would have ever thought that you have to pay for your own Emmy? I mean, that's ridiculous.
Well, you don't, but usually who's sponsoring you pays for it.
But still,
you know, SNL. If it's an individual, though. You know.
So what happens to the Emmy then? If you didn't, if where is it? We need to get you this Emmy. I think that should become a job of our podcast.
We will start. We will do a fundraiser show.
We don't even. I just want to know where it is.
It wasn't. No, what they do is they give you a blank Emmy.
Okay. All right.
They give you one that doesn't have any
the
badge on it.
Yeah.
And then like this one was engraved, but if you're not there, they'll give you a band and you can kind of put it on the front. It has the.
And what are your Emmys for? What was the category exactly? Do you remember?
All for camera work. I got several for Saturday Night Live, World Series, Super Bowl.
Oh wow! Oh cool!
A couple of daytime Emmys for the parade.
Oh cool! Wow! Wow!
I mean, all right, we're talking business. Emmys aren't what they, people in our industry. God bless them if they really are into it. It was a job, and from what I learned, like the very first Emmy I won, kind of soured me on them. And I'm not dissing them in any way. I'm proud that I won them, but to display them and everything else, the very first one I won, the technical director said, "Hey, and I was a kid. I was 22. It was my first year." And he's like, "Hey, we won an Emmy for the Thanksgiving Day parade that you did." I said, "Oh, great. I'm glad to be a part of it." He goes, "That's all you got to say?" He goes, "You know how many phone calls I had to make to even get us nominated?" Yeah. And I'm thinking, "Oh man, if you got to go through that much trouble just to get the nomination, sounds more political or who you know than
right."
So after that point, and then we're doing Saturday Night Live. I mean, here you are, a live show, and we get nominated, and we're put into the same category as a late night tape show. Now, how can you compare if you're going for technical excellence? How can you compare an edited show against a live show? It's just, there's no comparison. I mean, all the bad shots can be taken out, there's no comparison. So when they kept putting us in against edited tape shows, again, it's another thing that kind of soured me off on them. So yeah, I got them. They're there. They don't win me any more money. They don't make me any more money. And I don't have anybody over my house, so nobody gets to see them. So I'm a real jerk, I guess,
No, I used to find it funny when Dr. Oz, who won a lot of Emmys, so I don't want to make it sound like he didn't, but we'd lose in a category to a show that wasn't even on the air anymore. And you're like, how does that work?
Again, And again, at my point exactly. But there are some guys at work that are really into it. They really. I got to tell you, it was fun going out there. You know, the company would fund. They'd give you a first-class plane ticket out to L.A. Put you up. We got to stay at the Chateau Marmont. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes,
we got to stay there for one of them. And well, funny story about that one. My wife and I come down, and you know, she's frugal. Again, she wasn't making a lot of money, and we're out in LA, and we just won the Emmy. We go down to the bar, a poolside bar. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I said to the bartender, I said, "Yeah, we're going to celebrate." I says, "Give me a couple shots of amaretto." That's what my wife likes to drink. I says, "Okay." So I pull out a 20. I put it on the bar. Now, 2 single shots of amaretto. Put a 20 on the bar. The guy looks at me and smiles. He goes, "I'll run you a tab." Runs the tab, puts the check down. I look at it. It was $39 for 2 shots of amaretto. I was like, "Here, you can pay for this, and I'll take this now." We went back up to the room to drink.
Wow.
It was a little above my pay grade at that point.
$20 amaretto. Okay.
Yeah, for just a shot.
How many Super Bowls did you do?
Oh, geez. Now you guys are starting to.
A roundabout number. We don't need the
4. I might have done 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So did the 86 World Series. I can remember that one vividly.
Did you really?
Red Sox. Yeah.
Isn't that
You did the Mets Red Sox World Series?
Yes, I did. We won an Emmy for that one.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that was a great one.
I'm staring at the camera watching Richie because I knew when you said 86.
Get on.
I was like,
can you get on? Our producer here, Tony, is a huge Mets fan, just the biggest Mets fan. So,
hey, Tony.
He's even wearing a Mookie Magic.
Mookie Magic shirt.
Yeah, me too. The last time they won anything.
Yeah, right. But that was a great series, wasn't it?
The best.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was, man. So funny story about that. The opening shot. I've got the opening shot on Fenway Park. I'm on top of the building. They got the whole, stadium, the whole crowd, the whole bit. 30 seconds to air, they start screaming, "Bennett, where's Bennett? Get the shot. Tell him to frame up the shot. Where's Bennett?" A buddy of mine swings over and gets me sound asleep with the camera cover over top of me, the camera cover over the camera, and I'm out like a light. And they're screaming for me, 30 seconds to air. What the fuck is he doing? All of a sudden, I open my eyes, I frame up the shot, and they come to me. And it was like,
total pro.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a close one.
Best fucking story I think I've ever heard in my life.
That was a close one. The opening shot of the World Series, I almost blew it.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Fantastic.
I almost blew it. What would happen if you blew it? What happened? I always because I remember when I was in TV, everything was like fire, like something was about to happen terrible. But if they just go to something else, or what would they do?
Yeah. The director at that point, or the technical director, the director is going to be screaming his head off at me, and then he'll say, "Go to somebody else," or the technical director would have jumped ahead of him and maybe cut to somebody else as another shot. But I would probably wouldn't be talking to you right now if I had missed that shot.
Well, and the fact that you made it in time, so there were no repercussions because you still got.
They had no idea. They asked, when the guy who shot me saw me sleeping, he panned right off and he said he's fixing his headset. That was the biggest thing. That was the biggest thing with my cameraman. I didn't have my headset on. I couldn't hear you. So that's what I said. Didn't have my headset on.
That's great.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
And you did
You want another sleeping story?
Yeah.
I love how we want to hear about Daryl hitting a home run. He's telling his sleeping stories, and they're better.
Richie, I finally met somebody who has, who more than you can say. You want to hear a funny story?
Yes. Yeah.
You and Richie, we all need to go out drinking because you two will just sit there and go, "I got a funny story about that."
Yeah, he's right. We would. He's right. But go ahead, tell us your sleeping story.
Do you remember the show that was short-lived, The News is News? It only was on for maybe 6 weeks, or it was a takeoff of news update. It was
Okay.
basically a news update's own show, and it was short-lived. But anyway, had a live audience for that. It was a tape show. And getting ready to let the audience in, had nothing going on, and I'm laying on the bleachers with my feet dangling over, about 4 rows up, 5 rows up, and I'm out like a light. And all of a sudden I open my eyes and, I kind of hear somebody talking to me, and there's people sitting all around me. They let the audience in, and they sat them all around me, and I'm sound asleep. And all of a sudden the director goes, "Come on, let's go frame up your, it's a taped show. So we have a few seconds." And he goes, "Come on, frame up your show. Bennett, get your shot." And I'm like, "Oh shit." I go to stand up and I go to the ground, and my legs were sound asleep. Here I hit the ground like a lead of shit. I'm crawling around like a baby on my elbows and my knees, trying to get my legs to work, trying to reach my camera headset to turn on the headset. It was people laughing at me. The entire audience thought it was part of a comedy routine. Yeah, I had to wait like 2 minutes before I could stand. I had no blood in my legs. So that was, I've been known to fall asleep on the job a few times. I guess that's enough about me on that. What do you guys have to say?
I want to go back to SNL real quick. What was your favorite cast?
Yeah, would you have one, or
was it just every season had its own ups and downs?
Nah. I would say the Adam Sandler, the Will Ferrell, they were probably my favorite. Yeah, a lot of ones after that, like some of the other ones, Tim Catan, some of those guys, Kaczynski, never really interacted with the crew. A lot of guys did and some didn't. And if you interacted with us, to me, you were, one of the guys.
Yeah.
That's what made them my favorite.
Was there anybody
with always prepared?
Was there anybody I'm a big music guy. Were there any musical guests that you went, holy shit? I know you mentioned the Stones earlier, but
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith.
I think I sent you the picture, Mark, of Aerosmith, me doing handheld with them.
Oh, wow.
That was a great one.
And it's funny, I was just cutting clips from our old episodes, and we had the guy who filmed Aerosmith's rockumentary on, and he was telling a funny story how they didn't want to be filmed. Did you find that, or?
No, I didn't, not at all. They were quite amicable to anything that we wanted or needed to do. He just showed it. He had my wife, here was a good one. You guys know about the terminology with work, but we'll get to that in a minute. The Will Ferrell, the SNL crew, those were they were real good guys. I miss working with those guys.
All right, so now we talked about the best. I know you have a worse story, because you were telling Justin and I about when you had a certain opera singer.
Oh, Pavarotti. Yeah, you want to talk about an arrogant fat piece of shit, man.
Oh my!
Let me tell you what. Oh,
wow,
sorry.
That's Mark. That's Mark's nickname for me.
Anyway, this guy gets brought in on a golf cart because he can't walk. He's too fat. They help him up on the stage. You know what? You have a problem. That's not okay. I can deal with that. But attitude, man, you want to talk about a diva. So he's singing with Vanessa Williams. I think they were doing a Christmas special. It was Pavarotti and Vanessa Williams, and they were doing a music special. They bring in a rehearsal audience of like 400 people or 200 people. And 8H, the whole balcony was filled with people, standing room only. And it's Pavarotti, Vanessa Williams, and me. So again, being young and everything else and having a great job, and you're winning a lot of Emmys, you kind of get a little bit of a attitude, a little bit. And I didn't really have an attitude, but I didn't like getting yelled at for no reason. Like, I don't want to superior. My peer can yell at me, or we can have a discussion. a superior can't yell at me. We'll have a discussion. We'll talk about what's wrong, but don't yell at me, especially in front of people. But anyway, so I'm doing this dolly move. They rented this single crab dolly, and there's 4 people doing a move with me. And you know, when you're doing the dolly move, you've got to be wide. And he's singing, and the 2 of them are singing, and I'm head to toe, and I'm doing this
Sounded
dolly
just
move
like
all
him.
around him, slow move around, and I'm starting to zoom in, and he's and he looks right at the camera, and he goes, "You!" And all of a sudden I go, oh, and the camera stops, and he goes, "You! I'm talking to you!" And now when you're talking to me like that, my headset comes off. And as it's coming off, and I can hear Davey Wilson going, "Michael, don't you say anything to him. Don't you say it." And out off came the headset. And I look at the guy and I go, "You talking to me?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm talking to you." I said, "Well, then you got a problem. What do you need?" And he goes, "Oh, you shooting shit." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "You shooting all of this." He goes, "Here's the beauty." And I go, "Well, now we got a problem." I says, "Because there's people in there that are telling me to shoot something else. When you guys figure it out, you tell me what you want and we'll figure it, we'll get it done." And he looks at me and I put the headset back on and they're still screaming at me, "Whatever you do, don't say anything to that guy." And I guess it's too late. And, it went on, it worked, you know, we got it done. But yeah, I didn't like his attitude at all. I didn't like him.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
Max Weinberg and I had a little blowout, but we'll keep that for another
I've
story.
heard that from everybody who worked with Max Weinberg.
Oh, did you? Oh, Glenn. Oh, Glenn probably remembers this one. I'll tell you, I don't give a shit. Turns out though that Max turned out to be an okay guy to my wife. So I told you.
All right, cool.
Treat my family okay. Well, he really did. And if you want the story, I'll get into it. But anyway, we're doing Conan, and Max, you've heard, he had his own monitor set up, just like we're seeing now, so he could see himself drum. He had his own still camera with a direct feed of him on the drums. Mac's whole thing, he came to me when I was doing SNL. "Mike, you're my cameraman. I need, you know, I've got enough money. I need you to shoot my image, and that's my face." Now, I probably shouldn't be talking out of school, but like I said, it's old. So I said to Max, you know, not a problem. He goes, "Well, no, I need you to shoot now." My camera position, Max was facing out. I was shooting his left side. That's the only way I could get him. And he says, "You're shooting my left side." He goes, "That's my bad side." I said, "Max, who told you you had a bad side, you know?" And he says, "Well, I was told I got." I said, "Max, you know," you start blowing smoke. I said, "You don't have a bad side, Max." I said, "You look good no matter what." So he thought that was the best. And then people would stand in front of that monitor. He'd be playing. He'd throw drumsticks at you. "Get out of the way." And he'd throw a drumstick hard. "Move." Okay. Never threw a drumstick at me. But anyway, doing a shot, and I've got a shot of him, and the director says, "Mike, we're doing a bumper. Get me a shot." So I go shot, and I go to zoom into the trumpet player, and Max taps me on the shoulder with the drumstick and says, "This shot's of me." Okay. So I come over, I get a single shot of Max. He does his drum thing, and we go into commercial. Coming out of commercial, director says, "Get me a bump shot of the band." Okay. So I go to get a bump shot of Max because he says he's got a solo. Director says, "No." He says, "Get me something else. We just shot Max." Okay. Go over to the trumpet player, and the trumpet player is like, "No, I got nothing." He goes, "It's all Max." So he just tapped me on the shoulder, so he's already lost. I get the shot of the trumpet player, and he's standing there looking at me. And I kind of zoom back to Max, and when Max gets mad, he starts hitting the drums even harder. And he's banging on the drums, and I come back to a full shot just as he finishes. And, you know, they go into commercial. Coming out, they go, "Get me another drum shot or get me another band shot." So I knew Max was pissed, and I said, "Well, Max, what do you want me to shoot?" He looks at me, he goes, "I don't give a fuck what you shoot." "Oh, okay, not a problem." And I go to the band, and the band's got nothing, and they're standing there. And Max is like, "This is of me. This is of me." And he's drumming, and I don't move. Just a band shot, not Max, just the band. Show's over. Max says, "Mike, I want to talk to you." I walk off the set, put my camera away, and I go home. So I come in the next day, and are you familiar with the control rooms down in 6A, sliding glass doors?
Absolutely.
Yes. I got 2 hours until my show. So I got nothing to do. I'm on the clock. I'm reading a newspaper. My boss, the technical director, and Liz, Liz was the director. She says, "Oh, Max says when you come in, he wants you to go to his dressing room. He needs to talk to you." Fuck Max. He can come to get me if he wants to talk to me. He's nothing to me. He's a drummer. So I'm reading the newspaper. All of a sudden, I hear the doors slide open.
I know those doors.
Hush
Wow.
comes over to control room. All of a sudden, I can feel him looking over my back. All of a sudden, I turn around and I go, "Oh, hey, Max, what's up?" I go back to reading the newspaper. He goes, "Did you get my message?" I look back at him. I go, "Yeah, I got your message." I go back to reading the newspaper. He goes, "Well, can I talk to you in my dressing room?" And I go, "Max, you got something to say to me?" I said, "Say it right here." I says, I got nowhere to go." He goes, "Oh, could you come to my dressing room for a minute, please?" I make a, all right. I close up the newspaper. I put it down. Now, Max Weinberg demanded his own dressing room. They had a dressing room for the 7 band members. And Max says, "No, I get my own dressing room." So they gave Max, honest to God, a closet. The room was 4 foot by 8 foot, maybe. It had a desk and a chair, and that was it.
It
And
was
had one of
probably the
those
same
big-
dressing room I had when I did the Dr. Oz show, but go ahead.
Right across the hall from 6A
Yes.
in that little,
Yes.
that's it. That's the one.
I
So-
know it.
So picture this. I go following now. Max Weinberg is all of maybe 5'6". And I'm not big. I'm 6 foot. But I'm walking in behind him, and we walk into his dressing room, and I slam that door. I mean, it was the loudest explosion. And Max startled me, turned around, he looked at me, and I went right into his face. I says, "Max, let me fucking tell you something right now. We got a problem." I says, "You ever tell me you don't give a fuck what I shoot, you'll never see your face on my shot again." I says, "I'll guarantee you that." And I says, "You ever hit me with another drumstick, I'm going to shove it up your ass." I says, "Now the problem we have is there's people in there telling me what to do, and you're telling me what to do. I don't give a shit which one of you tells me what to do, but I'm only listening to one of you. Now you go in there, you figure it out, and then you and I'll get some work done. I'm finished." I says, "Now, do you have something you wanted to say?" "Oh, thank you, darling. I'm sorry, my wife." So I said, "No, I says, you know what the problem is, Max?" I says, "You think you're the best drummer, don't you?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, I do." I said, "Well, I'm the best fucking cameraman. So there's our problem. Somebody's got to figure out who's going to tell us what to do." And I says, "You have something you got to say to me?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, well, I says, "Is it that hard? You're sorry?" And he goes, "Well, yeah." I says, "Okay, we've got it settled." And now I'm thinking, I'm fired from the show because he's got pull. Never gonna. He was my best friend after that.
Wow.
Springsteen, let me tell you what, I never had another foul word with them. Springsteen was doing a concert in Asbury Park in the convention center. Max says to me one day, he says, my wife is there. She sees Max, and she repeated the story. He goes, "Oh, Mike shoots my best side." She goes, "Oh, Max, Mike says you don't have a worse side." He eats that shit up, right? He goes, "Oh, Mrs. Bennett," he goes, "Are you going to the concert?" She goes, "No, I don't have tickets." Pulls out his cell phone, calls, and he goes, "I need a ticket next to my mother for Mrs. Bennett." He got her ticket sitting next to his mother at the Asbury concert. And I was like, you know what? The guy's okay in my book. We might have had words. He might be a douchebag to other people.
That is awesome. That is so awesome.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you had people like that you have to stand up to sometimes. I mean, sometimes you can risk. You know who was weird? You guys might know him. The writer for Conan. He looked like
Louis.
Who did the Muppet Dog?
Oh,
you know who I'm
Smeagol?
talking about.
Smeagol?
Yeah,
Robert
Smegel. Robert Smegel. Boy, he was a character, huh?
yeah. Yeah, I don't know him. I don't know him well. I know who, but I've heard some great stories about him.
I got a good one for you. Here's another good one for you. I'm talking to Jeff Ross, the producer. You know, we're hanging out, we're doing something. And we were looking at something that I had shot. A video was shot, and Smigel had written it. I mean, the guy's eccentric. I mean, he's not a mean guy. He's just,
yeah,
you know,
he's out there.
He got a show to do. Goes walking over and he pushes me aside. He goes, "Move! I want to see this." Whoa! Well, we had words after that, and that's it. I'll have words with you, and we can end it there. It's done. I get a call from HR. Somebody saw it and called HR, and HR was calling me to see if I wanted to pursue this because he put his hand on me. And I'm like, that's what happened to our industry.
That's the beginning of the end right there.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
We had a guy fired because he was a sailor and he was tying knots.
I know this story.
Jim Nacetta?
Yeah, yep, because they all talked about it. Go ahead, tell it. It's terrible.
Jim's tying knots. And all of a sudden, a person was walking down the hallway, way down at the end of the hallway. Cameras and booms, we need you. Jim had a noose that he had just tied that he was playing with. Nobody around him but us cameramen. Took the noose and hung it over the railing that was there. Went into the studio. They fired him for racism.
Mm-hmm.
Because the person walking down the aisle, the hallway, saw the noose and said that he did it just as they were coming.
Mm-hmm.
And
everybody loved him, right? He was well liked. I remember
Jim passed away not long ago.
Yes,
he was one of the best guys I've known.
Yeah.
Sweetest,
and
great cameraman.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
There at the company.
All the guys I know have told me that story.
Yeah,
that's
Jim
funny.
Was a great guy.
God, that's funny.
Man. Well, hey, we hit the hour mark. We should probably wrap. But Mike, will you come back on? Because I feel like we didn't.
I got a ton of stories if you don't mind.
You know what, Mike? Maybe I'll grab a couple of the guys I know. Definitely Glen Arbor, because we can just do it.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Tell Glenn
has great stories.
Tell Glenn I had a blast. Because I got to tell you, I was a little skeptical. Yeah, I've never done this, but tell him that I said I had a blast, and I'd love.
I was skeptical, so not about you, about Mark, but Mark did okay.
I'd always be.
Well, we can do without him, but that's all right.
I'll be absent that night. I'll just watch if that's cool.
No, I thank you guys.
Thank you. I love these stories. This hour flew.
This is exactly what the podcast is about, man. Just great stories that the average person would have no idea of what's going on, how we have fun and, kick back and have a drink. And Richie, do we have a joke we can tell? We should end on a joke.
I got a joke. You want a joke?
Yes. Yes. We love that.
Well, I am, kind of down here in the farm, and my wife and I.
Where are you?
Getting some cows. I'm in Delaware.
Oh, okay.
So, the bull that we got wasn't servicing any of the cows. He was doing nothing. He was young, and so I called the vet in. That's a lot of money to call the vet in to have the cows get serviced and everything else. So the vet gave me some medication for him. He says, give him one of these pills every morning with his food, and he should start to develop, some kind of a libido and then start to service the cows. Well, the next morning he had serviced my cows. He had serviced my neighbor's cows, and I caught him down the street servicing the neighbor's cows down there. I don't know what the hell the vet gave him. They taste a little bit like peppermint, but I'll get to the end of it. Took a second, huh, Mark? But so next time, if you guys want to talk about like how the show is done behind the scenes, like some of the moves, what they have to do between getting from one set to the other. But I think your audience wants more of the stories.
To me, is like that's why like during lunch breaks, whenever I'm on a set, I always go with the crew. Like when we break for lunch, I always split with the crew and hang out with them. I ended up meeting some of my closest friends.
A bunch of great guys, man. They really are.
Just pull up a little apple box, sit down, and next thing you know, they're telling you so many jokes. You hang out with the actors, they don't want to eat because they're watching their weight. They're too afraid to say a raunchy joke because they're afraid of getting in trouble.
Right.
So I always sit with the crew guys, and they always make me laugh.
Yeah.
We're all just who we are. No airs about it. So
thank you so much,
guys.
Mike.
Thank you, man. And it was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
All right. That's Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. I drank all that tequila now.
What do you say?